Warning, content discusses topics of substance abuse and other dark topics. Viewer discretion advised. This content is intended for mature audiences. Everything in this video complies with YouTube's community guidelines. The goal of this video is discussing these topics in an informative and educational way, as well as to discuss how these substances can be harmful. Harm reduction is the purpose as well as entertainment/education. Don't do any substances or recreate any actions discussed in this video. Be safe and enjoy.
Ascensionist Overlord.
Hey everyone, it's Ascensionist Overlord. Today, we will be discussing diphenhydramine, more commonly known as benadryl. For simplicity, from now on I will refer to it as DPH, everyone's favorite deliriant. What is it? How does it work? Why is it bad? And my own personal experience with DPH addiction, and how has it affected my life overall. And just this video overall will be discussing DPH, so if you are not comfortable with the topic of substance abuse, things like that, maybe this isn't the video for you. But if you just want to learn about this interesting substance, and honestly why not to do it more than anything, then this may be the right place. Just a quick note here, all information about diphenhydramine or benadryl will have been gathered from either the Wikipedia page about the substance or from what I've heard from my own research, hearing other people talk about it, other YouTubers, but majority of it will be from what I've learned from being in the community, as well as, just hearing about it a bunch and stuff. Some of it will be from the wiki, and I will link that down below. So, yeah. What is DPH? Well, DPH is short for diphenhydramine, sold commonly under the brand name Benadryl, among many others. It is a first-generation H1 antihistamine and a sedative. Although diphenhydramine, which I will now be saying DPH, is generally considered sedating, DPH can cause paradoxal central nervous system stimulation in some individuals. Particularly at higher doses, this may manifest as agitation, anxiety, or restlessness rather than sedation. And, I've experienced this myself, where I've been on such high amounts that sleeping is just not an option. It's pretty interesting, but it works by blocking certain effects of histamine in your body, which produces its antihistamine and sedative effects, as well as being an anticholinergic, which blocks the acetylcholine receptors in your brain, which is responsible for a lot of things that I will get into further detail soon. DPH is used to treat several things, including symptoms of allergies and the common cold, as well as itchiness, insomnia, motion sickness, and diphenhydramine also has local anesthetic properties and has been used as such in people allergic to common local anesthetics such as lidocaine. Maximal effect is typically around 1.5 to 2 hours after a dose, and its effects can last for up to 7 hours, but in some cases of higher amounts can last even longer. And yeah, I've definitely had trips last more than 7 hours just from experience, but common side effects include sleepiness, poor coordination, and an upset stomach. While there is no known risk of use during pregnancy, it is not recommended to breastfeed well on DPH. That was the overall explanation of what DPH itself is. Now we are going to be talking about how it is misused and the side effects of that, as well as why it is pretty bad for you, and why people misuse it in general, just overall the topic. Now, using it outside of the realm of medicinal purposes. Well, the main reason people misuse diphenhydramine is because in high amounts it can cause hallucinations that are visual, auditory, and even tactile hallucinations. So that is the main reason it is misused. It is actually the most commonly misused over-the-counter medication in America, but there is some pretty bad side effects to it, that, is pretty well known at this point, but people, especially younger kids who hear about it online, may not know about these side effects, and people have died from this stuff because it is quite bad for you, and not everyone who gets into, using it knows this. So, being that it's a potent anticholinergic agent and a potential deliriant in high doses, it causes dry mouth, dry mouth and throat, increased heart rate, pupil dilation, urinary retention, constipation, and at higher doses, hallucinations or delirium and psychosis. Delirium and psychosis can both occur and are both guaranteed at high enough doses. I mean, like, that will happen if you take enough. Other effects include motor impairment, flushed skin, blurred vision, at near point, like things that are close up are harder to see. It causes your vision to be blurry. Abnormal sensitivity to bright light, sedation, difficulty concentrating, and short-term memory loss. I mean, yeah, like I would say my vape or my phone down next to me, and 5 seconds later forget where it is. There's visual disturbances, irregular breathing, dizziness, irritability, itchy skin, confusion, increased body temperature, temporary erectile dysfunction, excitability. And even though it can be used to treat nausea, at high amounts may also induce vomiting, but that could be due to the fact that you just ate 30 pills as well. Diphenhydramine in overdose may occasionally result in QT prolongation, which is a measure of delayed ventricular repolarization, which means the heart muscles take longer than normal to recharge between beats. An electrical disturbance which can be seen on an EKG. Excessive QT prolongation can trigger tachycardias, which is where basically your heart rate is beating faster than it's supposed to be at resting heart rate, which is obviously dangerous. I mean, there is a lot of reasons that DPH is really bad on your heart, and you should be really careful if you are already predisposed to heart issues when using this. I mean, I think you should practice caution and not do this anyways, but if you are predisposed to things like that, then yeah, I mean, it can be easily a lot worse and very easily deadly. Now, why the fact that it is an anticholinergic is important is because anticholinergic drugs affect the acetylcholine receptors in your brain that directly act on your brain as well as your parasympathetic nervous system. And I mean, it's used to treat a lot of things, but it can also cause a lot of issues. It can cause poor coordination, dementia, decreased mucus, dry mouth, cessation of sweating, increased body temperature, pupil dilation, loss of accommodation, double vision, increased heart rate, tendency to be easily startled, urinary retention, urinary incontinence while sleeping, diminished bowel movement, increased intraocular pressure is, like the increased pressure inside of the eyes, confusion, disorientation, agitation, euphoria or dysphoria, respiratory depression, memory problems, and inability to concentrate. I mean, that's why it also has vasoconstrictive properties, which is also affects things like your vision, and why it'll cause you to have blurry vision, and it affects your memory because, like, well, you're on high enough amounts of DPH. I'm pretty sure it's called retrograde amnesia, I believe it's what it's called. I'm not 100% sure on that one. It could be a different type of amnesia, but you don't, like, forget stuff. While you're on DPH, you temporarily lose the ability to form new memories. And, that will cause a lot of the confusion and, would probably even add to the agitation, have no idea what's going on. And anticholinergic drugs are common, for causing delirium and hallucinations indistinguishable from reality. I mean, plants like datura, things like that, all have anticholinergic properties because the acetylcholine is quite an important part in your body, and when it's disrupted, it can mess with a lot of things. And yeah, overall, I mean, there is a lot of negatives to using DPH, especially in excessive amounts. I mean, even in just normal medicinal amounts, say daily use for sleep or allergies, can lead to earlier onset of dementia and memory problems. Like, even if you're not abusing it, DPH is not the best for your mind at all. I mean, it was discovered a long time ago, and I think the main only good side about it is good at its job at preventing allergies and things like that. But other than that, I mean, it was discovered a long time ago when they had no idea about the other adverse effects. And I mean, at this point, it's never going to go away just because it's far too profitable. But even if you're not abusing it, it can cause adverse effects, which is why, I mean, honestly, it's pretty scary. And that's why a lot of people stay clear of it, you know. I mean, people in other communities like psychonauts and stuff, they like are terrified of this stuff, and with a good reason. I mean, and it can kill you very easily too. Like, it is not something to take lightly at all. Anticholinergic poisoning is not a fun way to die either, because I've been on high amounts of benadryl, and you know, just imagining enough to where that would even kill me means the effects would be even stronger, and just like living through the amounts that I did was not fun at all. So, you know, even before you die, you would probably go through hell quite a bit. Also, if my voice keeps kind of like fluctuating sometimes between, you know, different tones or like volume, it is currently 5 a.m. and I'm already bad at like keeping my voice at one set level anyways. So yeah. So for this part, I don't have any like, so for the other parts I had a really like loose script, you know, main talking points, because I can't spit all that stuff off the dome, you know, like all the information and everything. So kind of like a pretty loose script to follow for the video, but for this part I figured it'd be better just to go in raw on this shit, and because, you know, now I'm going to be talking about my experiences with DPH addiction and just how it has affected me. You can actually even see some of the side effects of it whenever I've been making this video. I mean, I'm messing up on certain words and stuff, and like, I can read just fine, I can understand all the words, you know, I know what they mean. It's just the forming the sentences and vocalizing them that I really have an issue with. I definitely am mentally impaired in some way, you know, permanently from my DPH use, and I have severe HPPD with hallucinations. I have more anxiety and paranoia than before I started using it, and I mean, at this video, before this video ends, I'm actually gonna include a trip report of mine. But yeah, I mean, I definitely said I have brain damage in some way from using DPH, amongst other things, because I've tripped easily hundreds of times now. And you know, and so like, it's very taxing on your mind and body, especially your heart, and, you know, definitely your brain. And I've been using it on and off for 4 years. I'm now 16. I started using it at 12 years old. There's been periods where I've used it daily for months, doing high amounts. I've mixed DPH with DMH, which is, I'm pretty sure, just half DPH and half a caffeine analog anyways. Diphenhydramine is DMH, by the way, and DXM. So, you know, I've been like, I was mixing those three over the counters. I was binging that stuff for a few days at one point. There's been periods where I've done high doses, you know, daily, 500 to 700 milligrams for multiple days in a row. Like, there's been periods of time where I've used for months, but it's been very on and off, because, you know, it's more of a situation of if I have some, if I'm able to get any, as, I mean, I get in trouble a lot, or like in the past we get in trouble a lot, get grounded and things like that easily, because I'm just a dumbass kid. I mean, like, honestly, I just do a lot of stupid shit. But yeah, I mean, I have heart issues and psychotic disorders. I mean, like, mental disorders, as well as autism. Like, because I have like mental disorders and stuff runs in my family, so does heart issues. So, you know, I'm more likely to have those things anyways. But I 100% have autism. I'm on anxiety medication, medication for insomnia,
stuff like that. And a lot of these issues I didn't have as bad before DPH, and it's definitely made me slower in a way. Like, I've noticed overall just mentally slower, like kind of dumber, and mainly in the realm of forming sentences. And sometimes I have like random bouts of memory loss that I normally wouldn't have. Like, I'll forget small things that like I normally would remember because I have really good memory typically. And also, me struggling on some words is due to the fact that it is 5 a.m. and I've been working on this video pretty much all night, so I'm very tired, but also can't really sleep because sometimes it just be like that, you know? So, yeah. I don't know. It's affected me in a lot of ways. It's caused me a lot of mental issues. I mean, depression, suicidal thoughts, things of that nature definitely increased during the use too, because like not only the fact of how taxing it is horrible for your mental health. I mean, overall it is just really toxic, you know, in a lot of ways. And not to mention, I've done other things too. I've huffed things before and taken other pills and stuff like I mentioned, so my brain is pretty thoroughly fried. A pretty big culprit of that was definitely diphenhydramine though, you know, because I've been using it for so fucking long, you know, starting out when I was so young. That shit is like permanently rewired my brain a certain way, I feel like, and it's pretty fucked up. But shit, I'm doing what I can for real, you know. I'm hanging in here and we're trying to do better. I definitely I did relapse kind of recently, which is what my trip report is going to be about, but I've definitely been doing better in the frequency of using, as that relapse before that I hadn't used for at least a month or two, so like I've been doing really good about that, you know. So I'm proud of that, the progress that I've made. It's just like, I don't know, I feel like one of these days this shit might kill me, but also that can happen anytime from a lot of shit, and I'm not scared of that. Like, I've accepted that fact. I don't want to die, but also maybe this is my autism and me just being kind of weird. I don't really fear death or have any natural like feeling or instinct of wanting to live. Like, I would never go out of the way to kill myself, but if I know I'm gonna die, I'm not gonna be like upset or scared or anything. It doesn't bother me, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, don't do this stuff. It's pretty fucked. They're gonna fry the shit out of your brain, like me. Yeah.
And this is going to be a personal experience of mine, a trip report that I wrote 7 days ago, the morning of a trip. You know, I took some that night before, and wrote this in the morning because I hadn't slept at all whenever I was mostly on the come down. So I had a bit of like a brain fog and stuff, but other than that, I was pretty much sober. But I am 6 feet tall, around 150-ish pounds, and I've been using DPH on and off for about 4 years now. My prior experiences are DPH, DXM, DMH, huffing, prescription pills, ecstasy, THC, alcohol, methylphenidate and Adderall, mushrooms, and nicotine. And this trip took place the night before, so about 8 days ago now, as I didn't sleep at all until about 7 or 8 a.m. after the come down. It starts at around, I'm pretty sure, midnight to 1 a.m. but I'm not entirely sure. I have a bad sense of time even when I am sober, and I was quite fucked up, 12:50 to 1:50 a.m. depending on if it was 1 or 12 a.m. I can't remember, but it started to take effect with the normal feelings of heaviness, a bit of anxiety, a bit of a sinking feeling in my stomach, and the real first hallucinations are the pretty typical things you would expect from a DPH trip, which is why I skipped over them mostly, because we've all heard this 1,000 times. The visual distortions, the walls look like they're moving and stuff like that. Now, there's things like the walls look like they were moving and breathing, the visual warping, the snow, and the dry mouth started to set in around this time, and the sedation. I decided to force myself awake for this trip, which was a bad idea, as you'll find out. Auditory hallucinations set in, and at this point, I'm coming up pretty hard, nearing peak, I would say. Well, no. I guess, technically, I feel like peak is like an hour and a half to 2 hours after, but I was definitely high as shit. I always have a hard time telling whenever I'm peaking, because, like, for all of it, dude, I'm just fucking high as shit. Like, I'm not gonna be able to tell whenever I'm not gonna be like, oh yeah, this is the highest I've been for this fucking trip. Like, no, dude, I'm just overall fucked. I have, anxiety and just this overall sense of dread. I kept feeling like things were watching me, appearing behind me, and shit like that. And at one point I saw my cat, right, like walk by me, and I went down to pet her, and she disappeared, which for some reason, this is probably due to the fact that she's a black cat and her brother is orange. So, it's like more likely to hallucinate darker things anyways. It's easier for your brain to form the imagery of that. But I've only ever hallucinated her and not her brother cat. So I'm not entirely sure about that as to why that is. But at this point, the memory loss and the brain fog is setting in. I had lost my vape, or so I thought. In reality, just 5 minutes earlier I had set it down in a bag next to my bed, just so I didn't have to like hold on to it and stuff. And I wanted to hit it, and I was looking for it for 10 minutes. I forgot that I had just fucking set it down and shit. So a lot of it was the typical stuff from DPH, a lot of confusion, and none of the hallucinations were anything too notable or that stood out to me different from a standard DPH trip. That's why I'm not really going to get into them in a lot of detail. So that's why, if this is a shorter trip report, I don't like to talk about the stuff that we've all heard a million times, like the walls breathing and the normal distortions and shit that happen with every trip. I don't want to talk about the same shit again. I talked about the thing with the cat because that was more notable, and that actually I specifically remembered that, shit like that, right? Auditory hallucinations, I was hearing people having higher conversations and shit, and normally it's about you. Like, when you're on that shit, the conversations, no matter what it is, you just have a feeling that it's about you. And I would be entering these dream-like states, right? I'd be awake, but then dreaming, where I'd think literally feel like a dream. I'm in school talking to my friend. Next thing I know, my body twitches and I snap out of it. I'm laying in my bed talking to myself. I would see the entire school building, everything. I would actually go to a different world. I was literally dreaming while awake, it felt like. And now, how I got caught, it was about 6 or 7 a.m. and my nose started bleeding pretty badly. I went into the kitchen to deal with it, to grab tissue to deal with it, and my mom wanted to look at my nose and stuff to see what was wrong, and she noticed my eyes were fucking huge, and I was subconsciously chewing on my tongue without knowing, because DPH in high amounts makes me really hyper and jittery, and I'll do shit like that almost like I'm fucking tweaking on like Adderall or like what I imagine meth would be or something, you know. You see people tweaking out, like fucking chewing on their face and shit. I do that sometimes because I have severe ADHD, and like I said earlier in the video, in high amounts it can do the opposite of sedation, you know, especially whenever you force yourself to stay awake for the experience. And you know, my mom is very attentive to things like that now anyways, because just once prior I was caught huffing gasoline and a bunch of other things, so she noticed pretty quickly that I was high, leading to her searching my room, finding the empty pill wrappers, taking all my shit, you know, all my benadryl, my fucking burnt vapes, and like I didn't even have any weed. She took my hitter and shit. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty short trip report, but overall, I mean, it wasn't nothing crazy, you know, pretty standard DPH trip. That's why it's not too long. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Don't do DPH, really. I mean, it's just not worth it at all. Yeah. Well, I'm Ascensionist Overlord. That was a look and overview at DPH from the perspective of someone who has been addicted to it for a long time, and just a overall view of the substance. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. Peace and love. Goodbye.